Okay, this is an attempt to take a single photo and try and produce an animated video from it, and show you how I used the free Natron compositing software to do it. No idea how this will go, but I had to go earlier at a slightly more complicated version using this one image, one still frame, single frame, and this is what I produced in that go. The really difficult thing here was trying to get a wing flapping successfully. So that was one attempt at it using the Natron software. So back to Natron itself. Right, so this is the opening screen, which has a viewer in it, an area to lay out your steps to get your result, and the viewer itself is shown up the top. So we will start with a simple project. Now, there are several ways of getting an image into it, but one of the simplest and easiest ways is just to drag and drop. So this is our background saved as a PSD file. So if we drag and drop that in, there we have our PSD file, and because our viewer was highlighted, it's automatically linked to the viewer. We can grab that and take it away. Our viewer shows nothing, and I can link the viewer back to that and show our picture. So what I had done with my photo is I have pre-processed it, and you can see that I have taken the bird out and used a content-aware fill to fill the slot, and later on when I'll bring the bird alone in on a clear background so that we can play with it in this image. Right, now one of the things that you saw in my preview is that the background drifted past. At the minute we can't do that because there's only one bit of background. So our first manipulation is to try and produce a moving background. So we need to take two versions of this and add them together. So to do that, there are several ways of getting at things. We can do a merge, and that gives us a merge box, and a merge box takes two different images or picture streams and joins them together. So in this case we're going to want to shift things around a bit. So to do that we want a transfer form. Now I showed that such things can be got from up here, so that transforms are there, or if we right click we can end up with these menus locally and go down for a transform menu. Now what I didn't mention before is up in the top right hand corner there are all the settings for the box. So we can see we can move an image up and down, we can rotate it, we can scale it, we can distort it by skewing it. So there's a range of things that can be done with an image in the transform box. So transform there. Now the source, we're going to take the source from our picture, and our output, which is a little one there, we will run down into our merge box. Not much has happened. So let's just move this image Now we know that the image is 2614, so let's move it a half a width, which should be 1307. So let's translate that to 1307. We've got something out here now. But then that's sort of going to be there, and it overlaps with this one, so we really want another transform back here. So one thing I could do is I could just do a copy of that transformer with a Control C. If I hit Control V, there's the transform. Now I can break that connection just by dragging it away, and I could rejoin things up here. That hasn't helped us a great deal, because if we look at the properties of this box, we can see that it's still plus. So they're moving both things the one way. So let's make one of those minus. Oh, it worked well. We now have got our two images, but we have a minor hiccup because they don't quite line up. We really want to take this and mirror it, so that now it butts up against itself and merges properly. So let's just have a look at our quick list again by doing the right click and hang on, transform. It's a form of transform, isn't it? So if we go down, mirror, we click mirror, down there. I don't want it down there. Let's get rid of that. Connect that back up to there. Now a way of, I can break this and join it in, but another way is if I hit Control, we get these little dots on all our lines, and if I drag that over the dot, it automatically joins it in for me. Nothing happened, did it? If we look up here for up the top, where our control area is, see nothing's ticked. Now we want to mirror it horizontally. Hey, look what happened. I could also flip it vertically, but not quite the effect we want. So now those two images join up nicely. Now I could neaten this up just a little bit. Like that. And there we go. So that works okay. Now I said we want to scan this across. One way of scanning it would be to use a transform and move it over. So bring up another transform box. Now I had the merge box clicked, and it's automatically put it in the output of that to the next stage. So let's see what we've got here. Transform. Now we moved our thing, our images, we displaced them 1307. So let's try minus 1307. Got something wrong, didn't I? Aha! Typing error. If we look at that, somehow I managed to have an O in there. Let's get rid of that O. That's better. Okay, we're on that side. Ooh, I actually want it to be sort of nominally. Yeah, no, that works. It's going to work for me, right. Now, how do we make it move? So this is the beginning, frame 1, and for the minute we're running 24 frames a second. So I'll take a 10-second video and go up to 250. Okay, we'll just set the end one there at 254. 240. I selected 240 and then hit that square there to make that the value that's the last frame. Right, so quick way to get to the beginning. You can just drag, but our navigation buttons are in the middle there, and that takes us to the beginning. That one's to the end, that one's to the beginning. What we need to do is tell Natron that we want this move to apply on this frame, and we do that by we'll set everything. By setting, we'll just choose one value here, set that as a key. What it says is that the value that's in that setting there will be applied to the image. Let's go right over to the end, right, and we'll change that value, which we're using as a key, and we'll make that the plus. And now all of a sudden we've jumped up to the other end. But if we choose somewhere right in the middle, it's jumping. Because we've set it up like that, as we scan along our timeline, or it's a frame line, but as there are a number of frames, 24 frames every second, every 24 of these is 1 second, so it's also our timeline. And we come along, and you can see we've taken our 2 bits of image and we're scanning along. So if we play this, it just slowly scans along, and jumps back. Let's just stop that. Now we'll have a look at the end one, we have a look at the beginning, and they're sort of mirror images. So depending what we're doing, that might not be the best thing. I'll transform over there. Now what we could do is duplicate and move this all again and make our background wider. So I'm going to give that a go. So we'll choose the merge. Now by holding the shift key down, I can also select the 2 transforms as well. Because our image is symmetrical, I don't need to mirror it this time. So I can do a Control C to copy those, and a Control V to paste them. Now we've got our images there. I might just move this lot up a little bit so that this slot here slots in a little bit better. That can come down, and we'll take our source from there, and we'll take our source from exactly the same thing, and we'll take that one from our newly merged one. But of course what we want to do is change these. Now I'll have a go at our full width, which should be 2614. 2614, and we'll have a look at this one and make this one 2614. Go to our first frame, run along, and when we sit in the middle, we've got a line there which would suggest that these might be just a bit too, so let's too far. So we'll just try shortening those transforms a little bit, see if we can get rid of that line. That's not bad. There might be a trace of it there, I'm not sure. Now if we go along, we've got our full image. and we've got our overlap, so things should work okay. So now we've got a scanning background. Now of course, if I want that island bit to be in the middle, what I really need to do is change the signs on these, I think. Here we are. So just changing our initial transforms means I've just reversed the ends that butt together. So now when we look at it, we'll start off with the island to the side and we'll just slowly scan past the island. The interesting thing, of course, is that island was only just a little bit of the image. You know, that basically, oh, I forgot now, it was, no, come back to the start frame. That was basically the image we started with. So, quick run through, and we scan past our island. Although it isn't really an island. Now this just keeps wrapping around to help us. Take it back to the beginning just as a starting point. I might move those over there. So now we have taken one image, mirrored it up to make it wider, and then extended it again, just to make sure we've got enough room to play with to give us a moving background. What we need next, of course, is going to be a bird, because we had the bird on it. So we'll pick our bird image up and put it there. Now to get the bird image and see it, again we need a merge box. So there's our merge box with our bird image coming in. And this time we want our background to go there and the outputs in the middle bottom, and that'll go to our viewer. Now we've got our bird. And if you hit a D key, you can see we've got a cross on that, and you can turn it off. So that brings our bird in. So we're going to do a little bit more yet for our bird, because our bird just sits there. Now if we hit play, our bird sits there and it is just merrily gliding along. Past our island. Now here we have a problem. If you want to make it a loop, where we've started and where we've stopped is not a good point, because we're jumping from the edge there to there, so not quite, it'll do for this. Back to the beginning, right. Now if we want to do something with the bird, and I was going to have him gliding over, we want the bird perhaps to start up here, a little bit smaller, glide in, getting bigger, and bigger, and then glide out. So let's see how we go. To do that, we need to change the position and the size of the bird. And if you can remember rightly, a transform box, now we've added a transform in, we can change its position and we can change its scale. We can do a few other things, but we don't need them for this one. Now it's given us a center point. So I could drag our bird up to here, and I could just, if I highlight the 0 there and use the down arrow key, I can scale it just by using the arrow key. Okay then. I've got it a fraction higher and I can't grab it to drag it without rescaling it, so I just pull it down a bit there. Now if I grab the center one, I can position it. So we'll start him off there with a little bit smaller. Now we need some keyframes so that the program knows that that's where we want the bird and also the size. Last time we just selected one of these. If I click off to the side, I can set all these parameters as the key. So that's locked them all in at number 1. And we could come all the way up to the end, still slightly off, and bring it down so I can grab it. Now here we might want our bird down here somewhere, and we might also want our bird to be a bit bigger, so you can use the sliders for this too. We might take our bird up there and bring our bird so he's just off the screen there. Now because I've already set parameters on here as a keyframe, once I position it and make an adjustment, it automatically saves those as a keyframe, and on our frames, or our timeline, our frames, it puts up a blue marker to tell us that's a keyframe on this box. So we did some on this box, and if I go to there, it's the same keyframe, so it doesn't help us. Right, so what's happening? Now at any time I can just click somewhere and it will give me show me roughly what's going to happen. That's probably not too bad, so we could hit play, in it comes gliding in, and out, and this auto loops, so that's alright. I will stop that. Now that's just straight end-to-end continuous scale, but at any point we can change what it's going to do. So let's come up to frame 160, about 2/3, 3/4 of the way through, and let's try changing our bird back a bit. Now might put him back there. Maybe in there. And let's adjust that size to 1. What I'm trying to do is have him come down and then the last bit going, maybe even bring him back a bit. So he'll drift down to here and then go a bit quicker for the rest of it as he gets closer. Let's just a quick visual coming in and whoosh. So let's see how that looks like. A gentle glide in, and when we hit there we'll get a little bit faster because we're moving a bit quicker. And we might call it quits at that for this demo. But now if we have a look at this one, we can see we have a keyframe at 60, a keyframe there and a keyframe at the end. If at any time you just want to go to particular keyframes, and if I click on the other box, it just shows the keyframe for the active box. So we don't have one at 160. Back here, there's our keyframe at 160. We can go from the beginning to the end there. So back at the beginning, this box here jumps between keyframes, so if I click on that it takes it up to our next keyframe and our next keyframe. So that's a quick way of getting from keyframe to keyframe to do our adjustments. So that doesn't look too bad. We'll try a save of our project and our menu box, and it's not where I want it. So I'll go back to the computer and we want E drive, Natron, bird. We'll save it there and we're going to call it, as we've got him gliding, we'll just call the name of glide. Interesting. Oh. Right. That's because it's done something that I didn't expect. There's the actual name. Glide. .ntp. We've doubled NTP'd it. Oh dear. We won't worry about that. Right. So it's there. Just to check. There we go. So we've saved this. Oh, if I go back, if I select that, it gets rid of our marker for our transform. And there we go. So here we are, we appear to be running. We've set our project back to our smaller format. Our smaller output format. So what we need to do now is generate our output, because at the minute we're just seeing it in our view screen. So to generate the output, either up here or right click on the board, we need a write box, and we're going to call this glide dot, and I'm going to use web m format. I've had a bit of a play, you can see, so I had it there. Matrox is right for WebM, but what I read is it needs the V8 or V9, so I'll go for the newer V9 format. I had something selected, right. But if we look at this, still not sure what format we're running in. So to make sure, I'll go back to the other way. So I could have got my right there, but we also want to do a reformat just to make sure we're in the right format. So our source is going to go out to our right. Our right's going to come from our merge, which you're getting our screen on, and we'll just make sure that reformat is 1920 by 1080. So now we should hopefully be writing a 1920 by 1080 output. So we'll see what happens. And see, it's going to take a while, well over a minute. It's doing lots of calculations, and I have made a mistake because I did not reset. I set the frames here, but I did not reset the frames in the project, so I've got about 10 frames which are not accounted for. So the project's going to finish about 10, or the video's going to finish, no, right the first time, the project's going to finish about 10 frames before the end of the video, which will leave us a blank screen, which perhaps isn't a bad thing. and I'm not sure how optimistic their timing is, but we're getting there slowly. The fans on the computer are working quite hard because it's running the computer quite hard, doing lots and lots of calculations. So what you've got to remember that this is, that the 1080 by 1920 is about there, so we'd have 3 times the volume of calculation going on than if we were just doing it straight as 1080 by 1920. There we are, we're finished. So we'll go back to our file. Wrong one. We'll go back, and now here's our glide output. So I'll just have a look at it, and there we go. There is our video gliding down, and I've got some glitches. Apart from the glitches, which I'm not quite sure where they came from, you can see how things are running, and not too badly. So that was a quick experimentation with Natron.